Hello and welcome to the PowerPoint for Chapter 3, Ethics, Social Responsibility and Sustainability by Caitlin Smith and Thalia Garcia. Thought for the presentation. With a more environmentally aware public, becoming a sustainable business has become an important part of the business model for many MNCs. The agenda for this PowerPoint is the definitions, ethics and social responsibility, human rights, globalization and ethical obligation of MNCs. Definitions. There will be 3 definitions. The first definition, ethics. Ethics is the study of morality and standards of conduct. The second definition, corporate social responsibility, is the actions of a firm to benefit society beyond the requirements of the law and the direct interests of the firm. The third definition is sustainability, development that meets humanity's needs without harming future generations. The second topic on the agenda, ethics and social responsibility. The ethical behavior of business and the broader social responsibilities of corporations have become major issues in the United States and all countries around the world. Ethics and social responsibility in internal management. The first bullet, unbiased ethical decision-making processes are imperative to modern international business practices. The second bullet, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, means business and their managers should follow the ethical standards of the country they are active in, regardless of MNC's headquarters location. The third bullet, can rely on local teams to execute under local rule to some extent. The fourth bullet, dilemmas that arise from conflicts between ethical standards of a country and business ethics or the moral code guiding business behavior are most evident in employment and business practices, recognition of human rights, including women in the workplace, and corruption. Ethics theories and philosophy. Western philosophy. The first bullet. Kantian philosophical traditions argue that individuals and organizations have responsibility based on a core set of moral principles that go beyond those of narrow self-interest. The second bullet. Aristotelian virtue ethics focus on the core, individual behaviors and actions and how they express and form individual character. And the third bullet. Utilitarianism is a form of consequentialism that favors the greatest good for the greatest number of people under a given set of constraints. Eastern philosophy. The first bullet. Can include various philosophies of Asia, including Indian, Chinese, Iranian, Japanese, and Korean philosophies. The second bullet. Tends to view the individual as a part of rather than separate from nature. On this slide, we have the similarities and differences between Western and Eastern philosophy. The Western philosophy. The first bullet, fragmentary. The second bullet, great emphasis on the use of reason. The third bullet, its goal is to strive in discovering what is true and real in life. The fourth bullet, knowledge. And the fifth bullet, individualism. Eastern philosophy. The first bullet, holistic. The second bullet, great emphasis on social relations. The third bullet, goal is to achieve a balanced life and find one's role in society. The fourth bullet, self-realization. And the fifth bullet, collectivism. What they have in common. The first bullet, both emerged out of love of knowledge. The second bullet, rule of law. The third bullet, economic freedom. The fourth bullet, cooperation. The fifth bullet, individual rights. And the sixth bullet, economic equality. The next topic is human rights. Issues present challenges for MNCs as there is currently no universally adopted standard of what constitutes acceptable behavior. Human rights violations are still rampant worldwide, such as equal employment opportunities, labor, employment, and business practices. The first bullet, labor policies vary widely among countries around the world. The second bullet, issues of freedom to work, freedom to organize and engage in collective action, and policies regarding notification and compensation for benefits are treated differently in different countries. The third bullet, political, economic, and cultural differences make it difficult to agree on a universal foundation of employment practices. The first bullet, ensuring that all contractors along the global supply chain are compliant with company standards is an ongoing issue and one that is not without challenges. The second bullet, elements such as working conditions, expected consecutive work hours, and labor regulations also create challenges in deciding which employment practice is the most appropriate. The third bullet, UNICEF and the World Bank recognize that in some instances family survival depends on all members working, and that intervention is necessary only when the child's developmental welfare is compromised.
Environmental protection and development. Conservation of natural resources is another area of ethics and social responsibility in which countries around the world differ widely in their values and approach. Many poor developing countries are more concerned with improving the basic quality of life for their citizens than worrying about endangered species or the quality of air and water. The most widely accepted thesis is represented in the environmental Kuznets curve, or EKC, which hypothesizes that the relationship between per capita income and the use of natural resources and/or the emission of water has an inverted U-shape. Relatively low levels of income that use of natural resources and/or the emission of waste increase the income. To continue on environmental protection and development, the reason for the inverted U-shaped relationship are hypothesized to include income-driven changes in the composition of production and/or consumption, the preference for environmental quality, institutions that are needed to internalize externalities, and/or including returns to scale associated with pollution abatement. Beyond some turning points, the use of natural resources and/or the emission of waste decline with income. The next topic we are going to cover is globalization and ethical obligations of MNC. One remedy could be to instill a business code of ethics that extends to all countries, or to create contracts for situations that may arise. While the level of involvement is hard to standardize, having a basic set of business ethics and appropriately applying it to the culture in which one is managing is a step in the right direction. The visual that we have for this page shows a code of ethics that could be incorporated into a business or whatever it may be. So integrity, to maintain honesty and clear communication in the workplace. Teamwork, work together to get the job done. Objectivity, don't make career decisions based on whom you like the best. Confidentiality, maintain clients' confidence at all time. And growth, always pursue professional growth. To continue from the topic from the last slide, the Prince of Wales once quoted as saying, "Business can only succeed in a sustainable environment. Illiterate, poor-trained, poorly housed, resentful communities, deprived of a sense of belonging or of roots, provide a poor workforce in an uncertain market." Doing the right thing is not always as simple as it appears. And then one recent phenomenon in response to globalization has been not just to offshore low-cost labor-intensive practices, but to transfer a large percentage of current employees of all types to foreign locations. Businesses often face much difficulty in attempting to balance organizational and cultural roots with the advancement of globalization. The inexpensive labor available through offshore outsourcing in India has aided many institutions, but has put a strain on some industries, particularly home-based technology services. The next topic we're going to touch on is reconciling ethical differences across cultures. Ethical dilemmas arise from conflict between ethical standards of a country and business ethics, or the moral code guiding business behavior. Most MNCs seek to adhere to a code of ethical conduct while doing business around the world, yet must make some adjustments to respond to local norms and values. Integrated social contract theory, the ISCT, attempts to navigate a moral position that does not force decision makers to engage exclusively in relativism versus absolutism. It allows substantial latitude for nations and economic communities to develop their unique concept of fairness, but draw the line at neglect of core human values. It is also designed to provide international management with a framework when confronted with a substantial gap between the parent moral and ethical value in the country in which the MNC is headquartered and the nanny countries in which it does business. Next, we will be talking about the corporate social responsibility and sustainability. Civil society, NGOs, MNCs, and ethical balance. So NGOs have grown in number, power, influence, and are active in all parts of the world. Their force has been felt in a range of major public debates and has been responsible for major changes in corporate behavior and governance. MNCs can have positive impacts on the countries in which they do business, often adhering to higher standards of social environmental responsibilities than a local firm. MNCs and NGOs can collaborate on social environment projects and in doing so contribute both to the well-being of communities and to the reputation of MNCs. The emergence of NGOs that seek to promote ethical and socially responsible business practices is beginning to generate substantial change in corporate management strategies and governance. Response to social and organizational obligations. MNCs are engaged in a range of several responses to growing pressures to contribute positively to the social and environmental progress of the communities in which they do business. Fair trade is an organized social movement and market-based approach that aims to help producers in developing countries obtain better trading conditions and promote sustainability. One reason is MNCs commit to maintain certain standards in their domestic and global operations. These agreements that include several standards are to ensure that when MNCs do business around the world, they will maintain a minimum level of social and environmental standards in the workplace and communities in which they operate. A movement towards increasing the availability of fairly traded products. Sustainability. Sustainability is development that meets humanity needs without harming future generations. The United States has an Environmental Protection Agency to provide information about and enforce environmental laws. The United Nations also has a division dedicated to the education, promotion, facilitation, and advocacy of sustainable practices and environmentally sound concerns called the United Nations Environment Program. The visual we use for this page shows environmental needs. It shows the social and economic, and then it has the variable, viable, and equitable, which all equal sustainable. Moving on, we are now going to be covering corporate governance. Corporate governance is increasingly high on the agenda for directors, investors, and governments alike in the wake of financial collapses and corporate scandals in the recent years. Collapses and scandals have not been limited to a single country or even single continent, but have been a global phenomenon. Corporate governance can be defined as a system by which businesses and corporations are directed and controlled. Additionally, the structure specifies the distribution of rights and responsibilities among different participants in the corporation, such as the board, managers, shareholders, and other stakeholders, and spells out the rules and procedures for making decisions on corporate affairs. Governance rules and regulations differ among countries and regions around the world. Corruption. Corruption is a pervasive element in the international business environment. The Foreign Corrupt Practice Act, FCPA, makes it illegal for U.S. companies and their managers to attempt to influence foreign officials through personal payment or political contribution. U.S. International Revenue Services continually audit the books of MNCs. Lastly, internal assistance. Governments and corporations are increasingly collaborating to provide assistance to communities around the world through global partnerships. Assistance is important for the part of the world that have not fully benefited from globalization and economic integration. At this time, are there any questions?